common struggle in the world of addiction is control. You have individuals who are trying to control their substance use. You have individuals who are trying to control the people in their lives who they love, who are struggling with that substance use. And on a surface, that can look like a really difficult conversation to unpack, and it is. It's nuanced. But if you're in a dynamic in your life with a loved one who's struggling with a substance, or you've struggled with substances yourself, you know how hard it is to just stop engaging in the dynamic, to stop engaging in the relationship. In other words, in clinical settings, we would call it engaging in the insanity. Now, someone in my life who is really wise and that I, look up to a whole lot, shares with me often, when someone comes to you with a chaotic behavior, when someone comes to you with a destructive behavior, you have to deny the invitation to the dance of insanity. And in the beginning, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to hold my boundaries. I didn't know how to communicate and say no to things that made me uncomfortable. So oftentimes in my family or with certain friendships when I was younger, and definitely in intimate relationships, I had a hard time saying no. And what that would often lead to is me engaging in behaviors that I didn't like in myself. And a big one for a lot of people, including myself, I can relate, is trying to control outcomes. I saw something I didn't like and I wanted it to be different, so I would try to control it. And the problem with that is when it comes to other people's behaviors, I have no control, zero. And this is also a big one when people come into therapy and they have a goal, they want to change things, and I'll get asked the question of like, what should I do, or what would you recommend that I do? And I often ask the simple question of, what do you think you should do here? Right? Because good, bad, or indifferent, your decisions for yourself are it's what's going to lead you down the path of change. Now, as an expert in psychology, I can help you navigate whether or not the outcomes were desirable, whether or not the outcomes were effective, whether or not they align with your morals and values. But what I can't do is choose those things for you. The same way I couldn't choose those things for my family members, the same way I couldn't choose those things for people I was in relationships with, the same way I can't choose those things for my friends. And that's true for all of us. All right. Each individual adult, number one, does not want to be told what to do. They want to figure things out for themselves. And this comes to the concept of dignity, all right? Giving other people the dignity to make their own choices, to make their own mistakes. And it can be really hard to watch people that we love and care about make those mistakes. But I want to remind you that mistakes come with consequences, and consequences teach lessons. That doesn't mean that we have to be okay with the fact that some consequences are dire and that there are really difficult and horrendous and tragic things that happen in life. We don't have to be okay with that, but we do have to have some acceptance of it. That when somebody engages and chooses to engage in a destructive behavior, that destruction follows. It's a logical conclusion. And our hope, with fingers crossed for ourselves, is that if I make bad decisions and there's a consequence that leads to destruction, that I can pay attention to that lesson and make a change for myself. And here's the good news, is that if I'm capable, because my brain works in a way that allows me to see lessons, then that must be possible for the other person on the other end. And I think a lot of times this is where resentment gets in the way. And we could have a whole nother conversation about resentments, but I think people get in their mind when they see somebody making a destructive decision that they know better than that person. Right? Well, I wouldn't do that. I know better than that person, and I can help them. And the reality is your version of help, the way you would handle it, may not work for that person. Right? That person has to find their own way out of their destructive behaviors. And so, as hard as it is, we have to let go of control. And a really simple way to start to do that, and again, this is a preliminary piece of information down the road in the path of detachment and letting go. You have to start to ask yourself, do I try to control the outcome? Do I try to help fix and save people in my life? Do I try to, control the way that I engage in destructive behaviors? Am I trying to control the substance? Am I trying to control the behavior? Or am I making better decisions for myself and letting go? And here's what it looks like if you're trying to control a destructive behavior. It's really simple, and it sounds cliche. I'm going to stop engaging in the behavior long enough so that I can feel the pain, so that I can figure out why I was feeling that pain in order to engage in the destructive behavior in the first place. And so on either end, I think an important piece of information that I could plant and we could talk about in further videos is a lot of people engage in destructive behaviors or try to control situations because they're having a hard time sitting with difficult emotions. But what I would encourage is that it's the sitting in that emotion that's going to give you the information and the answer as to why you were engaging in those behaviors in the first place. But what you're going to need is time away from engaging in the similar patterns and behaviors that you might have been used to. If some of this is making sense, or if even you're confused by it, these are the questions that we ponder in therapy. These are the things that we ask ourselves. And I would encourage you, if you're looking into this, to reach out to people who are professionals and look into therapy. You know, go online and look it up and get engaged with someone who is a professional who can help you unpack these things. If you're someone who struggles with substances, I would encourage you to get yourself into a 12-step recovery support group, AA or NA, and those are the people that are going to help you find lasting sobriety and long-term recovery. If you're a family member of someone who struggles with substances, I would recommend the program of Al-Anon. There are individuals in that program who are seeking serenity, peace, and detachment, and they're the ones who are going to help you find answers to better take care of yourself. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear more of yours in the comments down below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.